Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real World Customer Stories. Today, I'm very pleased to welcome my friend Brian Hodel from T-Mobile. Brian, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Can you tell us a little bit about T-Mobile and about yourself?
Hey, thank you for having me. Yeah, T-Mobile is a U.S. Subsidiary of Deutsche Telekom, and it is a one of the leading telecom in the country. And I've been here for a couple of years, and it's a pretty fun company to work for.
And I'm really excited to hear what your journey has been coming into T-Mobile.
So I've been through I've been through numerous positions. I started my sort of continuous improvement journey back at Philips Healthcare, and I went through to in an IRB, Quorum, and then I worked at Wind Shuttle, which has also sort of similar sort of forms and workflow tools for a while, and then I worked at toy company Funko, Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, and now I'm at T-Mobile. And as you can see, I've built starting mostly at Funko, but even before that, I was using a lot of Microsoft products. But starting at Funko, I started to use the Power Platform first with the Power Apps, and then I started moving into the rest of the platform. And I've continued to grow on that as I've moved through my various roles. And it sort of culminated here at T-Mobile as this is my full-time role, whereas the other roles were continuous improvement. My full-time role is a Power Platform developer now, and I've pretty much used every single piece of the Power Platform in production, and it's a great set of tools that really I'm very passionate about. Just from my technology side, but also from the continuous improvement side, because it just checks all those boxes of putting tools in the hands of the users that can solve the problems, which is one of the key pieces of continuous improvement. But also it allows the ability for pro developers like me to build extensive solutions that are very complex, but simplify and make more streamlined a lot of the processes that the organization has to deal with on a daily basis.
I have to say, I'm very curious as to what your RPA experience was like. Like, how was the state of the world when you were sort of doing Wind Shuttle, for example?
It's definitely come a long way from when I was at Wind Shuttle. Pretty glitchy tools, and they were fairly limited. So it was more sort of toward the legacy SharePoint type of workflow designer. So it was not necessarily as approachable for the tools, which definitely is the case with the Power Platform. And through the journey of Power Automate, I sort of started with the cloud workflows and then went into the business process. So business process flows, and then robotic process automation, which has just solved a ton of problems with our integration with Sprint, because we don't have to develop custom APIs. We can use that RPA process to just go right into the system, and especially for solutions that are sort of a limited lifespan like this, you can really just throw something in there that's working for a while, and then not have to worry about the complexities of APIs and authentication. From there, moving into process analysis with Process Advisor, which is a great tool. It allows you to gather a tremendous amount of information very easily from users to see what they're working on, how they're doing their work, what the steps are, and it brings visibility to that. After that was AI Builder, which is also another great tool, and it allows us to take forms and import them directly into records. So even as fast as T-Mobile goes and as technology driven as we are, there are still a lot of paper processes. And one thing we can do is to take that paper process and sort of acknowledge that it exists, but also make it easier for users. So say it's still going to go, we're still going to have these PowerPoint decks. And in this case, we take that PowerPoint deck, the user can just load it right in. The AI builder is going to extract all the data and build the records. Chatbots, fantastic as well. And that's the more recent thing that we've been working on is able to have chatbots that interact with users. You can ask them questions, they can give you answers, they can trigger workflows to assign licenses, whatever needs to be done, and they're working 24 hours a day, which is great. And nurture, certainly putting the center of excellence together, which I've been helping with. But the organization has really put in a lot of resources to get visibility into the platform and the users in order to help them with their journey.
It's very interesting to like hear how you've been sort of automating and also what I would say like modernizing some of your automation steps through sort of chatbots over here. And the other sort of very interesting point is like your whole sort of automation journey is sort of based on the Six Sigma like as a core concept. Like how has that sort of helped you in your automation journey? Like having that background from a process automation perspective. Like what's your certification level as well in a Six Sigma world?
Right. Yeah, that's true. I have a lot of experience in Six Sigma. The certification level, I was a green belt, but I've been working in Six Sigma, doing Six Sigma projects for well over 10 years, and that definitely comes into play. That's one of the things that I really like about the platform is that you can go the sort of Six Sigma route, which is standardizing processes and removing variability, and then with the newer tools like the process advisory, you can sort of analyze those and bring in the lean tool set to see where you can reduce or eliminate waste in that process. So standardizing things and then making them more efficient.
Got it. This sounds very interesting. I'm very excited to talk to you because you're the first person I'm talking to who actually has Six Sigma like background and RPA background and now has sort of gone through the whole arc in the Power Platform. So, what was the first sort of use case that you started up in the platform over here? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the first RPA scenario was really around the integration. It's a big thing. It's been going on for quite a while, so we had some ability to plan, and so it's really exciting that the RPA tools came out about that time. And once we sort of got things together, we were starting to see these sort of breaks in the process where there were lags in data being updated. So even though we had indicators to say, okay, go and create this in the legacy side, the yellow side, we still needed a way to bring that to more of a live data feed, because in order for us to work across the organization in a real-time way, we needed real-time data access, and the RPA scenario allows us to do that. It was a very manual process. So there were pull reports, see what's changed, go in there, pull up, and either create or update the records of the legacy system. So there's data entry errors. There's certainly a lot of time that's taken with that time commitment. And like most processes that are repetitive, things ended up batching. So it sort of moved to more like every couple of days, and then once a week they would update things. And so there was definitely a latency of the data, which is really challenging when you have to work on things that are moving as fast as they do in this world.
It seems like it's a big challenge, and generally, I think it's a very common scenario as well to see in the M&A space where you have two systems sort of coming together, and each enterprise will have its own version of the systems, the backend systems, how they're tracking sort of HR and the processes, and you want to sort of keep this running. So it's a traditional RPA sort of use case. And how did you solve it? Like, what did you build to sort of automate these manual steps? What was that like?
It was actually very, very simple. We first tried to go down the route of building APIs and doing the programmatic approach, but it was just really, really complicated with the authentication to the platform, as well as figuring out APIs. There was very little documentation for the system we were integrating with. So we pulled up which was new at the time, the RPA, robotic process automation for Power Automate Desktop. We've been using a lot of Power Automate cloud flows for a long time, and so desktop was a new feature. And really within a very short period of time, we were able to get the most of that process working without any real within any training or anything. So it was very quick, and it allowed us to not have to worry about authentication and APIs and programming. It was a very natural sort of process to develop and use the tool.
And how were these sort of desktop flows like executed? Like, what was the integration like with the Orbitz app?
So there are a few different ways, but the majority of these are back-end workflows. So cloud flows will actually run, they'll go through decision points. And when certain criteria is met in that cloud flow, then it kicks off the RPA to go and to search for see if the record existed. And if not, then it would create that new record or update the old one. So it's a pretty great process.
Got it. And so now that you have this system running in production, like what were some of the benefits that you saw out of this solution?
It's definitely reduced the latency. So they're live updates. So as soon as the record's updated in orbit, it's the flow runs and it's updated in the legacy system. So it keeps them on track. They get notifications, and it really helped them to not have to force the switch over to our systems that is planned, but not for a while.
And how did you solve your data sort of quality challenges that you were talking about earlier as well?
Well, certainly by having the programmatic approach to this, so the RPA, it's pulling the actual data in. So we're limiting what's referred to as a fat finger mistake of typing things in over and over again or copy and paste.
Got it. And I think you also had some email steps as well. So it looks like some requests were coming over from email, which were then sort of also getting copied into the system. So that's probably another point. Very, very interesting. So now it looks like you've saved some time. What's next, Brian, in your journey for automation? What did you do next?
Yeah, so one of the things that I mentioned is the change request, or one of the things that's new is the change request automation. So that's been great. So that's really automated a very heavy email-driven process, email and Excel, where a user would have to go in there, see that they needed a change, send an email out to the steering team. They would have to review it, make a decision on it, log it, send another email off to another user who would then review that, and they'd have to go in. And there was just a lot of this repetitive process of going in and using emails and Excel, and it's just a very manual process, very slow, hard to keep track of.
And how did Process Advisor fit into this scenario?
Process Advisor was key into understanding how it was, because there was some variability with different people doing that. So what it allowed us to do is to not only see what the steps were, but what order they were doing and how long they took, and what the variation was between users, and then even just different runs. So it enables to grab that data and to analyze it and see what was going on, so that we could design a process to be most efficient and implement that.
And did your Six Sigma sort of background help here? Like, were the ways you were able to leverage those data points much better in terms of the outputs of Process Advisor?
Yeah, certainly. It was one of the exciting things when I started using it and then saw the outputs that are in the graphical outputs. And it showed you exactly what that variation was, what the average timing was, what the individual timing. You could investigate what the steps were, if some users were doing additional things or skipping steps. Gives you visibility to that. But it also allowed me to gather that data without having to be the sort of person looking over the shoulder. So typically, when you gather this sort of information from processes, you are the continuous improvement person, or whatever your role happens to be. You've got to go watch what they're doing. It's very common for people to say, "This is what I'm doing, and it's how I'm doing it." But not a lot of people have the visibility to that, to say actually what they're doing. So you end up looking over someone's shoulder, which is not a great feeling. This does it all automatically, and with really very little user intervention.
Interesting. And how do you think folks like you in the process sort of analytics and process automation space could benefit from tools like Process Advisor?
It's gathering the information about what's going on, because it's the Gemba concept of go to see, and it really that's one of the key pieces of process improvement, is to go to where the work's being done, and if you do that, you see what's going on. Definitely not a full replacement for uh, going out and looking at the work, but this certainly allows you to get a better data set and more reliable too, because you're not looking over someone's shoulder, and there's always sort of an impact when somebody's watching you.
Interesting. So what happens next, Brian?
Let's see, well, is moving into the AI space, the AI builder scenario. There's a piece of the process where as I mentioned before, the paper meets the technology, and up until we had this in place, users would actually have to go in and copy and paste over. As you can see in the process, there's a lot of steps, there's a lot of fields that already existed. The data was already existed, in this case, a PowerPoint presentation. So with the new process, what they do is they just go in and they load, they say go into the orbit and click a button, attach the document. It analyzes the document, automatically creates a draft initiative for them. And then they're notified when that's done, if they don't want to just wait. And then they can go and review the data, add a few more data points that they need, and then submit it. So it saves them a lot of time and a lot of data entry mistakes.
How did you build this solution? Like, what components did you use to sort of stitch it together?
There's several. So it's triggered out of the Canvas app. So the Orbit being the primary interface is Canvas app. So it's triggered out of Canvas app. Once the user uploads the document, it's fed into a Cloudflow that goes through and then calls the AI form processing.
What was your experience like of sort of using AI Builder to build this model?
It was very intuitive, super easy, and really, again, no training. We went in and we were able to build out the majority of that process without any issues. It's a very drag and drop, very quick. It's a great experience. It's just so much power in that tool.
Do you have any machine learning experience or any other sort of background?
No, not really.
In the next segment, we'll learn about T-Mobile's implementation of Power Virtual Agents and more.
Nice. What's next?
Power Virtual Agents, as we've grown as an organization with the merger with Sprint, we're now have a larger geographic area. So we have a lot more people on the East Coast and where our headquarters for the alternate headquarters is there. And so we have a wider user base, and of course, a lot more users that are using the platform. So we're utilizing Power Virtual Agents to go and not have to have this sort of person sitting there to answer questions, especially things like access questions and stuff like that, or where am I going, what do I do? So things that are a lot repetitive, we've been able to utilize the Power Virtual Agents to automate the feedback. So now users, no matter where they are getting instant feedback, getting instant answers, and then that PVA can also kick off workflows and perform tasks like assigning licenses or sending out notifications to somebody that needs something. So depending on where you're at in that process, it can do a lot of that for you, which is great.
And what was the process like of building a chatbot in Power Virtual Agents?
It was kind of fun. It was very intuitive as well. So it's one of the nice things about the whole platform. It sounds repetitive, but it really was. It's a drag and drop and it goes through. But it was fun to play with it because you kind of have to think about what users would ask, right? So it's that sort of what was designed, but versus what users were actually doing in there. And any developer knows there's a big disconnect in there. So we put some like key trigger phrases in, and then had to ask the users, and they're like, "But this is how I ask it." And, I had no idea. The syntax of language is always complex, but it was a lot of fun.
Nice. And what was the impact of sort of rolling? How did you roll out the chatbot to sort of your users as well? Like.
Yeah, it lives in Teams. There's websites, links that we can have, and I think the next steps would be to actually put that right into the app so that we can utilize it there. But yeah, it sort of just shows up, and people start using it and playing with it, and we've seen a big drop in user requests going directly to email to ask the support team for questions and stuff like that. So it's been good.
There's been sort of this consistent theme as you've been talking about all these use cases and how you've been able to sort of through these use cases save time, and then these analysts or citizen developers or subject matter experts have time to do something else. So this is a good theme to sort of see through all these use cases come across this. How did you build these automations, Brian? What was the sort of some of the key design principles?
Yeah, so it's a lot of planning. So going through and designing to do those really you have to discover it first. So going through and finding out what they're doing currently to design the next steps, and that's really a key piece, is understanding what's going on, what is the best way to do it, and it's through that sort of investigation that you find things that you may not have assumed. So like the syntax for language, different people do it different ways. So going through and investigating how things are being done leads into the designing the best way to test out, and then to build it so that we can try it out with the users.
What were some of the common developer patterns that you used in your automations?
Well, we certainly have a lot of the application lifecycle management, so ALM, going through there. So we have test, UAT, and dev, and that's been really standard model, but that works really well for us because we certainly do a lot of UAT testing, and it's not always the same group, so it kind of fluctuates. But really, you look at usage patterns, frequency, severity. Analyzing those different things to find out what's going on, and to test it out with a wide audience, so that when we do actually move it into production, we're successful with that.
And what would you say, like in terms of when should somebody pick UI versus API automation? Like, what's your perspective on that space?
It's sort of what I guess what your abilities are, which is certainly a contributing factor. APIs can be a lot more complex, especially when you have to deal with different authentication platforms. But you can, but the RPAs and the automations in the Power Platform are very intuitive, very quick, very fast to learn, and it really is sort of like recording a macro in Excel, for instance, and you can go through and just click, and it records it. And even if it's a stopgap measure where you're just going to do this before you go to a more robust solution, but it's fast, it's efficient, and it runs very, very reliably for us. So there's really no reason to even to consider trying to develop the API for what is essentially a very complex system in this case.
Got it. And as you've been sort of building all these scenarios, and you sort of have these design principle, which I'm assuming is driven by your Six Sigma background, this whole idea of that you're discovering and you're sort of quantifying what the impact of this automation should be. Like, how have you sort of rolled these automations out in your organization? Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's we really focus on the COE has been a really important aspect of that, so that we have visibility to who's working on different things, who's creating apps or workflows or any different pieces, and as that COE has been getting stood up, that helps us to be able to see who those people are and reach out, contact them to see if they have any questions, as well as governance controls around things like environments, so you can have data loss prevention aspects of that, and people working in different environments have different permissions and different DLP policies, so people can get what they need, so without restricting their tool use, but also not put them in a place where they might get into trouble through leaking data or something like that.
Got it. And in the beginning, I remember sort of as you were walking through your journey through the other sort of RPA tools, you talked about a little bit on having less visibility, or the whole notion of shadow IT. Like, what's your perspective on that, where you are with T-Mobile?
Moving into the single platform definitely reduces the number of programs and applications that you're using. But moving into the Microsoft ecosystem, I think, is always a good measure, because of course a lot of other things we use, Azure for SQL and just all kinds of different things in the Microsoft stack we use. And so moving this back in there even gives more visibility and a single place for, say, audit log reporting for IT to go. And so it's I think it's really the furthest you can get from shadow IT, in my opinion.
Got it. And I think, like you probably had also mentioned that the fact that you have sort of this rich community of makers, it's a good testament that the platform has been adopted with enough guardrails in place to be able to nurture sort of more and more makers, like versus sort of having the shadow IT approach where we're going rogue somewhere on the side. So it's good to see this sort of structured motion at scale happening over there.
Yeah, certainly having a community of makers. And one of the important things in Lean Six Sigma is to give people the tools to do what they need, which is great. Wind Shuttle certainly is one example where people are solving big problems by themselves. But that tool is the very definition of shadow IT. And so moving in this direction gives them the guardrails that they need, which is great for the organization and helps them as well.
Got it. This has been fascinating. Like, Brian, what message would you like to leave our listeners with?
I think definitely look at the platform and all the different tools. There are always new tools coming out. There are new capabilities, new features. One of the things I would suggest is to go in the different, like app in a day, or the workflow in a day, Power BI in a day, and you can go through those, or dashboard in a day, and you can go through those and learn a lot. But using a lot of the templates, so if you go to Power Automate and you click on the templates and you say, here, create this out of the box sort of template, and there's a ton of them, which is great. Go in there. And that's the best way to learn, I think, if you have no experience with it. Just go in there, create a template, and then start playing around with it and change things and modify them and get in there. And it's you're not going to break anything, but it's super powerful. And there's really no end to what you can do with this platform because of the wide variety of tools that it offers.
That's awesome. Like, I do remember that you're very good at baking cakes, and how does that fit in over here, Brian?
Yeah, that's one of the analogies I use. So there's the sort of the pro developer, there's the entry level, but then there's the middle, which is where the Power Platform low code. So the example would be if you're going through and you just go to the store and you buy a cake, or you buy a box cake, and you just put like water and an egg in there. That's pretty entry level. Or you can go the other thing and you can go source, you can build, go get all the raw ingredients, and you can do everything, 20, 30 different ingredients in a cake. But really the low code, you can start in the middle and you can kind of jump in from any of those spaces and still get that done. But it's really, it puts the tools in the hands of users and allows everybody to get in there no matter where you're at. And the Power Platform being in the middle allows you to sort of that flexibility to go either way, and certainly to go either way once you get into, which is important.
Wow, like I'm completely mind blown. Like, I think this is like a fascinating story. Like, I'm just fascinated that coming from a Six Sigma process automation sort of RPA perspective, and kind of the steps that you have gone through has been sort of incredible. And I hope our sort of listeners enjoy watching this video as well. So thank you so much, Brian, for sharing the story with us today. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a lot of fun.